The Big Bang Theory was such a hilarious show that it left us with countless memorable moments and iconic quotes. It brought many people closer to the worlds of science, technology, and comic books, making audiences fall in love with its quirky characters and special guests. In this video, I'll share over 400 fun facts about this hit series. Before we dive in, if you haven't watched the show yet, I recommend pausing the video and coming back after you've seen it. Some plot details might be revealed that you won't want spoiled. If you've already watched it, let's get started. The Big Bang Theory is a sitcom created by Chuck Lorre and Bill Prady. It follows a group of scientists who struggle with social interactions outside of work, especially with women, until they meet Penny, an aspiring actress who introduces them to life beyond the scientific bubble they're used to. Here are the main characters. Dr. Sheldon Lee Cooper, a graduate of the University of Texas and Caltech, where he earned his PhD in physics. Dr. Leonard Leakey Hofstadter, who earned his PhD in physics from Princeton University. Penny, a high school graduate. Howard Joel Wolowitz, who holds a master's degree in engineering from MIT. Dr. Rajesh Ramayan Kuthrapalli, who earned his PhD in astrophysics from Cambridge University. Dr. Bernadette Mary and Rostenkowski-Wolowitz, who earned her PhD in microbiology from Caltech. Dr. Amy Farrah Fowler, who earned her PhD in neurobiology from Harvard University. The original pilot episode was never aired because CBS didn't approve of its darker tone and different setting. In that unaired version, Penny's character was named Katie and played by Amanda Walsh. Leonard and Sheldon also had a fellow scientist named Gilda, played by Iris Barr, who had a crush on Leonard. Brie Larson auditioned for the role of Penny but was turned down for being too young. Kaylee Cuoco was rejected twice for the first pilot, but when the second pilot was filmed, she landed the role. Originally, Penny's character was supposed to be a hard-drinking makeup artist instead of an aspiring actress. The first season was planned to have 22 episodes, but due to the Hollywood writers' strike, only 17 were produced. Season 2 picks up right where the first left off. For actors from The Big Bang Theory had previously worked together on the show Roseanne: Johnny Galecki, Sarah Gilbert, Laurie Metcalf, and Megan Faye, who played Bernadette's mom. Fun fact, Galecki and Gilbert's characters were a couple on Roseanne, just like in The Big Bang Theory. And the blanket on Amy's couch? It's the same style as the one used in Roseanne. Actress Mayim Bialik holds a PhD in neuroscience, just like her character on the show. This was a huge help to the writers, as she would review scripts whenever they touched on her field of study. She also has degrees in Jewish studies and Hebrew studies. Bernadette's voice, played by Melissa Rauch, is based on her real-life mother's voice. Although the character didn't originally speak that way, Melissa chose to use it to give Bernadette a more distinctive personality. Each character's wardrobe reflects their personality. Sheldon wears short-sleeve t-shirts over long-sleeve shirts. Leonard often wears hoodies. Raj is usually seen in sweaters or vests. Howard wears Dickies or oversized belt buckles. Amy wears knee-length skirts with colorful or dark tights and long-sleeve blouses with collars. Bernadette wears long dresses with dark or colorful tights, except when she's pregnant. Penny is the only character without a consistent clothing pattern. The word Bazinga wasn't originally in the script. Writer Stephen Engel used it after playing a prank on co-creator Bill Prady, and they decided to include it in a taping. That's how the catchphrase, now synonymous with Sheldon's jokes, was born. Bazinga went beyond television. In December 2012, Brazilian biologists Andre Nemesio and Rafael R. Ferrari named a species of orchid bee Euglassa bazinga. Executive producer Stephen Molaro responded by saying they were honored that the scientific community embraced the show. The term was also used by the Ames laboratory in the US when developing a chemical compound called Bazinga, which contains a crystalline structure of barium, zinc, and gallium. In the TV series The Flash, the character Cisco Ramon, played by Carlos Valdez, wears t-shirts referencing The Big Bang Theory. One of them even features the word Bazinga. Kevin Sussman, who plays Stuart, originally auditioned for the role of Sheldon, but Chuck Lorre ultimately chose Jim Parsons. When Jim Parsons auditioned for Sheldon, Lorre was so impressed that he asked him to do it again, just to see if he could deliver the performance as perfectly a second time. Although many believe Sheldon's character is based on someone with autism spectrum disorder, Jim Parsons explained that he focused on behavior to bring Sheldon to life. Raj's issue with being unable to speak to women without alcohol in the early seasons was inspired by one of producer Bill Prady's former co-workers, who had the same problem. Interestingly, in the episode The Dumpling Paradox, Raj is seen talking to Leonard while Penny is in the apartment, even though he hasn't had a drink yet. That's because, up until that episode, he didn't realize he could speak in those situations. There are two key moments when Raj discovers he can talk to women. The first is in the grasshopper experiment, when Penny serves him a cocktail and he realizes alcohol helps him speak. The second is in the Bon Voyage reaction, when Penny visits him after his breakup with Lucy and he talks to her without having had any alcohol. Science programs have seen an increase in student enrollment since the show aired, thanks to its fun and engaging portrayal of the scientific world. Penny carries the same handbag starting from the second episode of the series. Actress Mayim Bialik had to hide her right hand in 5 episodes of season 6 due to a car accident. Macaulay Culkin was considered for the role of Leonard but turned it down. Johnny Galecki initially rejected the show 5 times because he didn't think it would work. When he finally agreed to join the cast, he was offered the role of Sheldon, but he preferred Leonard because of the romantic storyline with Penny. Leonard's character wasn't originally written to wear glasses, but Johnny wore a pair during his audition to give the character more personality, and they stuck. Fun fact, Leonard's glasses never had lenses in them because they reflected the set lights during filming. The show was originally going to be called Lenny, Penny, and Kenny. Amy's apartment number is 314, a clever reference to the mathematical constant pi. There are 2 fan theories suggesting the show is actually about the end of the world. The first claims that Leonard, Sheldon, Howard, and Raj are modern-day versions of Einstein or Tesla, but distracted by the temptations of the 21st century. This theory is based on the show's opening sequence, which summarizes the history of the universe up to the present day, ending in an explosion followed by the show's title. According to this idea, one of the characters might accidentally cause the universe to collapse, similar to how Leonard broke the elevator in their building. The second theory points to the timeline in the opening sequence, which stops at the year 2020. Some interpret this as a reference to the pandemic and the end of the world, while others believe it simply marks the final year the show was intended to run before it wasn't renewed. Kate Micucci auditioned for the role of Amy, but since Mayim Bialik had already been cast, she was given the role of Lucy, one of Raj's girlfriends. Before Mayim Bialik joined the cast, in the episode The Bat Jar Conjecture, Raj, Howard, and Leonard discuss who could replace Sheldon. Raj says, "I heard the actress from Blossom is really smart. She has a PhD in neuroscience or something." In the same scene, Raj also mentions that the girl from The Wonder Years is smart enough to replace Sheldon. Later, Danica McKellar, who played Winnie on The Wonder Years and whom Kunal Nair had a childhood crush on, appears in the episode The Psychic Vortex as Abby, one of Raj's dates. In the holographic excitation, while Amy and Sheldon argue about their Halloween costumes, you can spot Blossom and Joey on Amy's whiteboard list, an Easter egg referencing Mayim Bialik's role in Blossom. Amy is allergic to avocado. Sheldon is allergic to bees and has obsessive-compulsive personality disorder, hypochondria, and OCD, though he denies it. Howard is allergic to peanuts and has idiopathic transient arrhythmia. Leonard is lactose and sulfite intolerant, and also has asthma and nearsightedness. Raj suffers from romantic anxiety, selective mutism, and gynophobia, all of which disappear by season 7. In the comic book store Regeneration, Raj and Leonard meet actor Nathan Fillion and tell him they're huge fans of Firefly and Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, in which Simon Helberg played the character Moist. In the maternal congruence, Penny, Leonard, and Sheldon are watching the 2000 film How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which features Christine Baranski, Leonard's mom on the show, as Martha Mayhovier. Every episode title, except for the pilot, references something from the world of science. Sheldon and Leonard don't believe in any deity, which is ironic considering the scientific theory that underpins both their careers, and the title of the show was originally proposed by Catholic priest Georges Lemaitre. Howard Wolowitz was inspired by a real person one of the producers met while working at a computer store. Simon Helberg had read the script for the unaired pilot and almost turned down the audition for the second pilot because he didn't like the original version. At the time, he was a regular on Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, but his agent convinced him to audition. When Chuck Lorre saw his performance as Howard Wolowitz, he immediately cast him in the role. Jerry O'Connell, who plays Sheldon's older brother, is actually younger than Jim Parsons in real life. The instruments played by Sheldon, Howard, Amy, and Leonard are genuinely performed by the actors. Jim Parsons studied piano for 14 years and learned to play the theremin for the show, one of the most difficult instruments to master. Simon Helberg is a professional pianist. Mayim Bialik learned to play the harp specifically for the series. Johnny Galecki plays the cello. There was a show in Belarus called The Theorists that closely resembled The Big Bang Theory. When Chuck Lorre found out, he alerted Warner Brothers to file a complaint. However, nothing came of it since the production company was government-owned. Still, when the actors learned it was a copy, they quit, and the show was canceled. Kaley Cuoco and Johnny Galecki secretly dated from 2007 to 2009. After their breakup, the characters Penny and Leonard began having more romantic scenes together. According to Kaley and Johnny, the producer did this on purpose just to mess with them. Will Wheaton's house number in the show matches the registry number of the Enterprise NCC 1701D from Star Trek: The Next Generation. Throughout the entire series, Penny's last name is never revealed. There are two popular fan theories. The first is based on the final scene of The Maternal Capacitance, where Penny talks about her parents. Her mom refers to her dad as Bob, but later Leonard meets her father and calls him Wyatt, leading fans to believe Penny's last name might be Wyatt. The second theory is a bit darker. It suggests her last name could be Wise, making her full name Pennywise, a nod to the terrifying clown from Stephen King's It. Since Sheldon suffers from coulrophobia, fear of clowns, the theory goes that all his friends agreed never to mention it, fearing it would trigger him. Chuck Lorre revealed in an interview that Penny's last name was supposed to be Barrington. It was originally planned to be revealed during Sheldon's thank you speech in the series finale, but the writers decided against it, worried it might overshadow the emotional moment, so her last name remained a mystery. In the opening credits, Kaley Cuoco's name was changed after she married tennis player Ryan Sweeting. From the convention conundrum through the separation oscillation, she was listed as Kaley Cuoco Sweeting. After her divorce, her name reverted back to Kaley Cuoco. In the Weekend Vortex, for reasons that remain unclear, Kaley Cuoco's name does not appear in the credits, even though she does appear in the episode itself. Kaley's sister, Brianna Cuoco, guest starred in The Tangible Affection Proof, playing Gretchen, who gets engaged to one of Penny's ex-boyfriends. In the Justice League recombination, Penny attends a comic book store costume party with Leonard, Sheldon, Raj, and Howard while dating Zach. Penny dresses as Wonder Woman and Zach as Superman. Coincidentally, Kaley Cuoco later dated Henry Cavill, who plays Superman in the DC Extended Universe. The main characters often walk straight into Leonard's apartment without knocking, but they always knock before entering Penny's. Both Leonard's and Penny's apartments have doorbells, but the characters never use them, they always knock. Johnny Galecki and Kunal Nair share the same birthday, April 30th. Of the four male friends, Howard is the only one who never saw Penny naked in person, despite being the first to flirt with her and the one who found photos of her online. Of the four, Leonard is the only one who never dropped his pants under the influence of alcohol or medication. Raj did in the wildebeest implementation after trying an experimental drug at a cafe. Howard did in the Higgs boson observation while on the International Space Station after taking something for anxiety. Sheldon did in the pants alternative while drunk at a science award ceremony. Sheldon's t-shirt colors often reference superheroes or superhero teams. In comic lore, each color represents a different emotion, so his shirt choices can be interpreted as reflecting his mood. The sets for the second, third, and fourth floors of the apartment building were actually the same stage. The props on the elevator doors and the signage were swapped out to make it look like the characters were moving up the building. The plants, however, stayed the same on every floor, and if you look closely, the wear and tear marks on the moldings are identical each time they climb the stairs. The food used on the show wasn't fake, it was real, prepared by a budding chef who took pride in cooking every dish that appeared on screen. Most of the time, in scenes involving food, especially in the university cafeteria, the characters don't actually eat. They just pretend by moving their mouths as if chewing or pushing food around with a fork while talking. Still, in some episodes you can spot Amy and Penny genuinely eating. The Chinese takeout containers featured in the show are the same ones commonly used in other movies and TV productions. Johnny Galecki, Mayim Bialik, Brian George, Raj's father, and Carol and Susie, the voice of Howard's mother, had all appeared previously in the sitcom Blossom. Sheldon and Leonard were named after legendary producer, director, writer, and actor Sheldon Leonard. Leonard's last name comes from Nobel Prize-winning physicist Robert Hofstadter, 1961, and his son, Douglas R. Hofstadter, a physicist and Pulitzer Prize winner, 1980. Sheldon's last name honors Nobel Prize-winning physicist Leon Neil Cooper, 1972. Sheldon and Cooper are names tied to theoretical physicists who won the Nobel Prize, while Leonard and Hofstadter are linked to experimental physicists who also won the Nobel. This mirrors the scientific fields of the characters themselves. In the Focus Attenuation, Season 8, Episode 5, Sheldon confirms that Penny moved into the building on September 24, 2007, the exact date the series premiered. In the Hawking Excitation, Howard tells Sheldon he only owns one belt, though throughout the series we clearly see him wearing several. Howard is the first of the four friends to get married and have children. Interestingly, in real life, Simon Helberg was also the first of the four actors to marry and start a family. In the alien parasite hypothesis, Sheldon claims that the best number is 73. Because 73 is the 21st prime number, its mirror 37 is the 12th, and its mirror, 21, is the product of 7 times 3. After this episode aired, mathematicians Jesse Burns, Chris Spicer, and Alyssa Turnquist formally defined what they called Sheldon primes in 2015 based on two properties, the product property and the mirror property. Later, Carl Pomerantz and Chris Spicer from Dartmouth University analyzed numbers up to 10 to the power of 45 and proved that 73 is the only Sheldon prime. Their findings were published in the American Mathematical Monthly. And there's more. In binary, 73 is a palindrome, 1001001. On the show, Sheldon often wears t-shirts with the number 73, which also happens to be the year Jim Parsons was born, 1973. The show's theme song was Almost She Blinded Me with Science by Thomas Dolby, with lyrics adjusted to fit the series. That version was used in the unaired pilot. While it didn't become the official theme, you can still hear it in the Lizard Spock expansion, where Howard has it set as his ringtone. Series creators Bill Prady and Chuck Lorre are fans of the band Bare Naked Ladies. At a concert in Los Angeles, the band improvised a song about cosmology, and that's when Prady and Lorre realized they had found the perfect group to write the show's theme. When Ed Robertson, the band's lead singer, was asked to create a song that summarized the history of the universe, he hesitated at first, having written TV and film songs before that never saw the light of day. But the producers convinced him, and he agreed. It's worth noting that Ed Robertson has long admired the work of Bill Prady. Robertson actually came up with the song while taking a shower. At first it sounded like a simple acoustic idea. But once he brought it to his bandmates and they played it together, the track evolved into what we now know as the iconic theme song of the series. For the series finale, a special version of the theme song was recorded, one that summed up the characters and the show itself, celebrating 12 seasons of unforgettable laughs. Sheldon's famous knock 3 times routine, where he repeats the name of the person inside, first appeared in episode 10. Amy later points out that it's tied to his obsessive-compulsive tendencies. But in the hot tub contamination, Sheldon explains to Penny why he does it. Interestingly, in earlier episodes like the Big Bran hypothesis and the hamburger postulate, he only knocks once, and without saying her name. Sheldon insists he doesn't enjoy dancing and once told Penny she'd never see him do it. Yet he knows how to waltz, rumba, and salsa. We've seen him dance in the Fuzzy Boots corollary, when Howard drags him to a dance class with Leonard and Raj, in the agreement dissection, when he joins Amy, Bernadette, and Penny on the dance floor, and in his unforgettable flamenco routine in the Brain Bowl incubation. Some of the laundry room signs in the building read, "No open containers in the machines," "Do not leave clothes unattended," and "Please keep your clothes on while doing laundry." Sheldon and Leonard even make a cameo in Family Guy, in the episode Business Guy. Yes, there's even an adult parody of the show, titled Big Bang Theory, a XXX parody. In the pilot episode, you can spot a model of a transparent DC-7C airplane fuselage on the shelf in the apartment. Later, it was replaced with a model of the space shuttle. Both the aired pilot and the unaired one are the only episodes filmed on 35mm film. Every other episode was shot digitally. The broken elevator was a deliberate choice. It allowed characters to have conversations on the stairs without the need to build street sets or long hallways. In the lobby, there are 16 mailboxes. Since the building is said to have 5 floors, that number doesn't quite add up. It could mean there are fewer apartments than expected, or perhaps more, suggesting the building might have 8 floors. During the Desperation Emanation and the Irish pub formulation, Penny doesn't appear at all. That's because Kaylee Cuoco broke her leg while horseback riding. In the following episode, she only appears briefly, standing behind the bar counter, still recovering. Had she not missed those episodes, Penny would have appeared in every single one of the series. The show was filmed in front of a live audience to capture genuine laughter. Even car scenes were staged in a way that kept the laughs authentic. Sheldon's folding laundry board became so popular that many fans wanted one of their own. During its run, The Big Bang Theory was the highest-paying show on television. From seasons 7 through 9, the main cast earned up to $1 million per episode, and between $500,000 and $900,000 per episode from seasons 10 to 12. As the series gained popularity, more and more Caltech students attended the live tapings. The transitions between scenes were unique. No two were ever repeated throughout the entire series. Howard's house actually appeared years earlier in Everybody Loves Raymond back in 1996. Comedy legend Bob Newhart agreed to join the show only if his character was recurring. He went on to appear in 6 episodes as Arthur Jeffries, better known as Professor Proton. On pizza nights, Leonard often eats something else, or just vegetables. This is likely due to his lactose intolerance, unless he ordered pizza without cheese. Leonard is also intolerant to sulfites, though he can be seen drinking wine on several occasions. Sheldon and Leonard's apartment features their own flag, which should only be hung upside down in times of crisis. Yet in several episodes, usually when they're arguing over violations of the roommate agreement, the flag is clearly upside down. The poster in their apartment lobby is a chart of the electromagnetic spectrum from San Francisco's Exploratorium Science Museum. Sheldon once said that he and Howard were merely acquaintances. But in the series finale, he called Howard one of his friends. And in real life, Jim Parsons and Simon Helberg are indeed close friends. In the Bozeman reaction, when Leonard's apartment gets robbed, Sheldon is watching a movie on his phone. You can hear him say, "No, Jim, don't go in there," a meta nod to the scene just before they enter the apartment. Sheldon suffers from ornithophobia, fear of birds, as seen in the Ornithophobia diffusion. Ironically, Jim Parsons loves birds. He grew up with 2 parakeets. Sheldon's favorite cartoon theme is from the 1987 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series, which was written by Chuck Lorre, the creator of The Big Bang Theory. His weekly routine is famously rigid. Monday, Wii Bowling Night. Tuesday, Burger Night. Wednesday, Halo Night. Thursday, Pizza Night. Friday, Retro Video Games. Saturday, Laundry Day. Sunday? Never mentioned. Given Sheldon's Christian upbringing, it's implied Sunday is a rest day, even though he's an atheist. In the Excelsior acquisition, Sheldon misses a Stan Lee autograph signing at Stewart's comic book store because he's in traffic court. The judge's name? J. Kirby, a clever tribute to Jack Kirby, Stan Lee's legendary Marvel co-creator. Sheldon has received restraining orders from Carl Sagan, Leonard Nimoy, Stan Lee, and Bill Nye. That's some elite nerd rejection. After Howard returns from the International Space Station, Bernadette wears the star necklace he gave her before liftoff, a sweet continuity detail. Melissa Rauch's real-life pregnancies were woven into the show's storyline. Sadly, she lost her first baby early in pregnancy, but later had a successful one, explaining why Bernadette gets pregnant again shortly after Hallie's birth. Raj's, Bernadette's, and Howard's apartments were filmed on the same set, which was redecorated between scenes. That's why you rarely see all three locations in the same episode. In January 2011, CBS renewed the show for 3 seasons through 2014. Then in March 2014, it got another 3-season renewal, making The Big Bang Theory the first scripted show in modern TV history to receive back-to-back 3-year renewals. Most of the driving scenes were filmed in Pasadena, California. The most recognizable streets? Fair Oaks Avenue and Del Mar Boulevard. In many highway scenes where Leonard is driving, a silver BMW Z3 consistently appears behind him, a subtle Easter egg or just a recurring background car. The opening night excitation, where Sheldon and Amy finally take their relationship to the next level, shattered ratings records with over 24 million viewers in the US. The Simpsons paid tribute to the show with a parody during their 30th anniversary episode, proof of the Big Bang Theory's pop culture impact. Soft Kitty, the lullaby Sheldon asks to be sung when he's sick, is based on a 1937 poem called Warm Kitty by Edith Newlin. In 2015, Newlin's daughters filed a copyright lawsuit against the show for using the lyrics without permission. The case was dismissed due to lack of proof of ownership, partly because the author had passed away decades earlier. In The Imitation Perturbation, Leonard dresses up as Inspector Gadget for Halloween. Fun fact, in the original cartoon, Inspector Gadget's niece is named Penny, a cheeky nod to the show's leading lady. The emotional scene where Penny confesses her love to Leonard in the hesitation ramification was filmed in a single take. The director felt it was perfect and couldn't be improved. In the launch acceleration, Leonard and Penny inhale gas for comedic effect. Originally, the writers considered using sulfur hexafluoride, which deepens the voice, but the idea was scrapped due to safety concerns and fears that fans might try it at home. While Sheldon, Leonard, Howard, and Raj are die-hard fans of Star Trek, Star Wars, and comic books, the actors don't all share those passions. Jim Parsons admitted he'd never watched either Star Trek or Star Wars. Simon Helberg isn't into Star Trek or comics. Kunal Nair is a genuine fan of Star Wars and comics. Johnny Galecki is also a Star Wars enthusiast. Kaylee Cuoco struggled to make the Vulcan salute during the Thespian Catalyst. The scene had to be res-hot multiple times from different angles, and if you look closely, her fingers aren't quite right. When Raj mentions that Spock dates every 7 years, he's referencing the Vulcan mating cycle known as Pon farr, which occurs every 7 years. Every season premiere was directed by Mark Sendrowski, except for the pilot, which was helmed by legendary sitcom director James Burrows. Dr. David Saltzberg, a physicist, served as the show's science consultant. He reviewed scripts for accuracy, attended tapings involving complex physics, and ensured that all equations shown on whiteboards were scientifically valid. Several episodes explore string theory, often referencing Stephen Hawking. However, Leonard Susskind, considered the father of string theory, has publicly challenged some of Hawking's conclusions. At the end of every episode, Chuck Lorre includes a vanity card, a personal message or reflection that flashes briefly on screen. They've become a cult favorite among fans. In the unaired pilot, Sheldon was originally written as sexually active and more emotionally aware of romantic relationships, quite different from the version we came to know. Leonard was also supposed to wear suits regularly instead of his signature hoodies and graphic tees, as seen in that same unaired pilot. When Chuck Lorre first pitched the show to the studio, the original script featured a very different cast. Instead of Sheldon, there was a character named Missy, a tall, attractive brunette from Texas with limited intellect who manipulated her roommate Beverly, an older scientist from New Jersey. Penny was already part of the concept, living with Priya, a lawyer from New Delhi. The show was initially intended for a more adult audience. While the main characters were eventually rewritten, except for Penny, many of the originals were reworked into secondary characters who appeared later in the series. Sheldon and Leonard are the only characters whose IQs are explicitly mentioned. In the pilot, Sheldon says their combined IQ is 360, his is 187, which means Leonard's is 173. Based on context, Howard's is estimated around 166, Raj's no higher than 180, Amy's at 185, Bernadette's at 160, and Penny's around 110. Howard is the only main character with a collection of female-themed sci-fi and fantasy action figures. His shelves include Batgirl, Cheetah, Wonder Woman, Princess Leia, next to Jabba the Hutt, and Captain Picard seated in his bridge chair. He even adds a custom 3D printed figure of Bernadette to the mix. Howard is the only lead character who's never shown vomiting on screen. He's also the most multilingual, speaking English, French, Mandarin, Russian, Persian, Arabic, Klingon, and American Sign Language. The yellow fridge in Howard's kitchen has a continuity quirk. In the Thanksgiving decoupling, the doors open to the right. But in the leftover thermalization, they open to the left, likely adjusted to better show the contents on camera. Howard often wears alien-themed pins on his collar. When asked about them, Simon Helberg said their meaning is known only to him and the production design team. One fan theory suggests Howard believes his father was abducted by aliens. In the Precious Fragmentation, Howard finds an Alf doll and recalls his mom gave him one at age 11 to help him sleep after his dad left. He believed his father went to Melmac, Alf's home planet, and that Alf would help bring him back. Another theory links the pin to Alienware, Howard's computer brand, possibly referencing one of his first engineering gigs. Howard's mother is never fully seen on screen, despite being in adjacent rooms. The closest glimpse is in the spoiler alert segmentation. In contrast, Raj's parents appear via video calls from India. Raj's character was originally conceived as Dave, a first-generation American from an immigrant family. The casting call included actors of Korean, Japanese, Pakistani, and Chinese descent. Ultimately, the role went to Kunal Nair, who shares Indian heritage with his character Rajesh Kuthrapalli. Raj's parents' marriage begins to unravel in the wiggly finger when his father tells him that love doesn't last. Their interactions become increasingly passive-aggressive until they eventually divorce. Artie Mann, who plays Priya, Raj's sister, has a mother who is an obstetrician-gynecologist in real life, just like Priya's father in the show. When Raj discovers a planet in the Griffin equivalency, he names it Planet Bollywood, a nod to India's iconic film industry. In The Desperation Emanation, Raj mentions dating a deaf woman. Over the series, he dates 2 deaf women and 2 redheads named Emily. However, in the emotion detection automation, when he gathers his exes, one of the deaf women is mysteriously absent and never named. In the pilot episode, Raj wears a baseball cap, something we never see him do again throughout the entire series. That cap has the number 42 on it, a clever Easter egg referencing Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where 42 is famously the answer to life, the universe, and everything. Melissa Rauch was a fan of the show long before joining the cast. She was unemployed and about to attend a job hunting seminar when she got the call to audition for Bernadette, a sweet, Catholic scientist going on a date with Howard in Season 3. She didn't hesitate. Melissa Rauch and Will Wheaton both made their first appearances in the Vengeance formulation. After Kevin Sussman didn't land the role of Sheldon, he was cast as Stuart Bloom instead. Kevin Sussman actually worked in a comic book store before becoming an actor. Stuart Bloom studied at the Rhode Island School of Design. When he couldn't find work as an artist, he opened his comic shop. The QR code in Stuart's store once linked to a real website for the Pasadena Comic Center, created by Warner Brothers fans could buy official merchandise there. But after Stuart's shop accidentally caught fire in the status quo combustion, thanks to an electric grill in the back, the site and its Facebook page were taken down. When the store was rebuilt with help from Howard's mom, the QR code never returned. Stuart first appears in the Hofstadter isotope, but his last name isn't mentioned until the mommy observation. Stuart Bloom featured in nearly every season except the first. While not always a recurring character, he becomes a series regular from season 6 onward. John Ross Bowie originally auditioned for the role of Leonard, but since Johnny Galecki was cast instead, Bowie was given the role of Barry Kripke. Barry Kripke is the only recurring character who appears in nearly every season of the show, except the first. Kripke has a speech impediment known as rhoticism, which causes him to pronounce the letters R and L as W. The origin of Sheldon's dislike for Kripke is never explained. Some fans interpret it as Sheldon reliving childhood memories of being bullied whenever Kripke makes him uncomfortable. Actress Molly Morgan played 2 different roles in the series. First, she appeared as one of the goth girls who date Howard and Raj in the Gothowitz Deviation. Later, she returned in the Intimacy Acceleration, Season 8, Episode 16, as the woman who lets them into the escape room. Sheldon, Leonard, Howard, and Raj frequently talk about superheroes like Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, The Flash, and Wonder Woman. They wear themed t-shirts, read comics, dress up in costumes, and reference these characters often, since Time Warner owns both the superhero content and The Big Bang Theory. Sheldon, Leonard, Howard, and Raj appear in every single episode of the series. Sheldon, Leonard, Howard, Bernadette, and Amy all use Windows laptops, even though they have Macs in their apartments. They typically use the Macs at work. Raj, however, uses both a MacBook and Windows at home. And Sheldon, in addition to those systems, also runs Linux. On Sheldon and Raj's desk, you can spot an Android figurine, even though none of them use Android devices. They always stick to iPhones and iPads. In the Griffin equivalency, the script originally called for Sheldon to give a fake smile at Howard and Leonard's request. But when filming, Jim Parsons added his own creepy yet hilarious twist to the smile, turning it into one of the most memorable moments of the episode. The game Rock, Paper, Scissors, Lizard, Spock, first introduced in the Lizard Spock expansion, became hugely popular worldwide among fans of the series. The game was originally created in 1998 by Swiss engineer and blogger Sam Cass, who, along with his wife, published the rules and hand gestures on his website. After the episode aired, Cass accused the producers of using the game without permission. Later, in the Rothman disintegration, Sheldon even refers to it as an improved version of Rock, Paper, Scissors invented by blogger Cass. The card game Mystic Warlords of Kae was designed by the show's art department. The only person Sheldon allows to sit in his spot on the couch without feeling uncomfortable is his grandmother, and occasionally his mother. When he once gave the spot to Howard, he quickly regretted it and demanded it back. Even during the Arctic expedition, Sheldon chose a seat that mirrored his spot on the couch. In the unnared pilot, he's visibly uneasy at a restaurant table, insisting he already has a designated spot and explaining why. Interestingly, in some episodes, others sit in his place and he doesn't seem to mind. Sheldon dislikes people entering his bedroom. Yet in the Psychic Vortex, Season 3, Episode 12, when he and Raj meet 2 women, he leaves one of them alone in his room without concern. Raj's sister Priya seems to have married sometime after her breakup with Leonard, between seasons 5 and 10. In the Allowance Evaporation, Raj's father mentions that 5 of his 6 children are married, though Priya's marriage is never directly addressed, possibly to avoid Leonard finding out. When Mayim Bialik auditioned for the role of Amy, she wasn't aiming to land the part. She was simply attending auditions to secure a supporting role that would allow her to renew her expiring health insurance. But she got the role and brought Amy Farrah Fowler to life. Bialik later admitted she had never watched a full episode of the series. She only saw short clips shown to the audience, which she used to understand the storyline. In the pilot episode, Leonard buys food from House of Tandoori, a real restaurant. The Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker shampoo mentioned in the episode also exist, but the conditioner does not. The pilot originally included an opening scene at a sperm bank, which was cut before distribution. As a result, another scene where Sheldon, Penny and Leonard enter the apartment and Penny asks what they do for fun was also removed. The pilot is the only episode in which the actual name of the series is mentioned. In the pilot episode, Sheldon mentions the famous double-slit experiment to Leonard. Back in 2002, physicists voted it the most beautiful experiment in history, as published in Physics World. That line was originally meant to be delivered in front of the chalkboard scene in the unaired pilot, rather than in the hallway. Sheldon also points out in the pilot that if stair steps differ by just 2 millimeters, people will trip. This idea comes from a rumor about a Middle Eastern adversary of Uncle Sam, who supposedly built uneven stairs and memorized them to escape in case of pursuit. Throughout the series, Leonard's mother often talks about his more successful siblings, though they never appear on screen. We only learn that Leonard's younger brother Michael teaches law at Harvard, and that his sister is a scientist who managed to create a human pancreas in a monkey, likely making her a biologist, though her name is never revealed. Penny's sister Lisa is also never seen. At Penny and Leonard's second wedding, only her parents and her brother Randall, recently out on parole, attend. We do know Lisa is married and has at least one child, born on her wedding day, which Penny mentions when she wants to buy a comic book for her nephew. In the Latin American dub, Penny says her sister ended up with her husband, but that's just a localization choice. In several episodes, characters mention that Penny's check engine light is on. But her car was a red 1980s Volkswagen Cabriolet Mk1 convertible, which couldn't have had that light. Those models were built without computerized engine controls. In the pilot, Sheldon hesitates about donating his genes, worrying that his offspring might not know whether to use an integral or a differential to calculate the area under a curve. Of course, the correct method is integration, since differentiation is used to calculate slope. The sign on the wall of the sperm bank in the pilot reads, "Donation assistance materials available." From the second episode onward, Sheldon and Leonard upgrade their old CRT television to a plasma flat screen. When Leonard tells Sheldon to make an excuse for missing dinner with him and Penny, saying he ate too much Quiznos, it's a nod to a controversial Quiznos commercial Jim Parsons starred in back in 2003. Dr. Gabelhauser, head of the physics department, has 2 photos on his office shelf, one with Bill Clinton and another with George Bush. In the luminous fish effect, Sheldon refers to research on transferring DNA from glowing jellyfish to other animals. This is a nod to the discovery of green fluorescent protein, which became a major focus of genetic research in the early 1990s. Sheldon's dislike of Leslie Winkle begins in the hamburger postulate, when she changes one of his equations on the whiteboard. Before that moment, he had no real issue with her. Leonard's middle name may be a tribute to his father's work with anthropologist Louis Leakey. Penny's apartment seems to have a balcony in the Middle-earth paradigm, where people can be seen outside her window during the Halloween party. Yet in later episodes, the balcony appears to vanish. Penny has a Chinese character tattoo on one of her buttocks. Kaylee Cuoco herself also has a tattoo of a Chinese character on her lower back, meaning faith or belief. The vanity card at the end of the grasshopper experiment simply reads, "United we stand." This may have been a subtle nod to the 2007 Writers Guild strike, which began just a week before the episode aired. After Raj discovers he can talk to women when drinking alcohol, he's often seen ordering a grasshopper cocktail. The drink becomes a symbolic part of his character. When Raj refuses to ride an elephant with Lalita Gupta in the grasshopper experiment, after his parents push him toward marriage, it's a reference to traditional Indian weddings, where the groom often arrives on an elephant or horse as a symbol of respect, love, and family. The video of Leonard and Sheldon's fight, recorded by Howard in the Cooper-Hofstadter polarization, was uploaded to YouTube, where it could easily be found. Sheldon hates when people touch his food, fearing germs and bacteria. Yet in the Lubenfeld decay, he pulls his meal straight out of the trash can. At the end of the Cooper-Hofstadter polarization, one of the Chinese physicists is wearing a t-shirt from The Greatest American Hero, the very same shirt Sheldon wears in later episodes. Howard's lab colleagues only appear in the Jerusalem duality. After that, they're never seen again and Howard never mentions them. In the bat jar conjecture, Sheldon tells Howard he should answer the anthropology questions because he's a mammal. That's incorrect. Anthropology is the study of humans, while the science that studies mammals is mammalogy. Also in the Jerusalem duality, Kim Dennis tells Sheldon that string theory is a dead end and that he'll eventually realize it. Sheldon finally comes to that conclusion years later in the relationship Deremption. The Star Trek Birth of Spock scene Howard mentions in the bat jar conjecture was actually filmed, but cut from the movie. It was later included as a deleted scene on the DVD. When Howard rips off his shirt after winning the physics bowl in the bat jar conjecture, it's a parody of soccer player Brandi Chastain, who famously removed her jersey after scoring the winning goal in the 1999 Women's World Cup. For the Nerdvana Annihilation, producers asked collector Bob Burns to lend them the original time machine prop he owned. He declined, so the team built a replica for the show. Actress Courtney Hengeler, who played Sheldon's twin sister Missy, is 8 years younger than Jim Parsons. In the Pork Chop Indeterminacy, Howard mentions he's working on a project that will take him to space, foreshadowing what actually happens at the end of season 5. When Leonard tries to sell his collectibles in the Nerdvana Annihilation, he says he'll sell them to Larry. Later, Stuart becomes the comic book store owner. This suggests the character might originally have been named Larry, or Leonard was meant to sell to a collector by that name, possibly the same Larry who occasionally appears in Stuart's store. The final question in the physics bowl from the bat jar conjecture is a Feynman diagram, used to study the interactions and properties of subatomic particles. These diagrams appear from time to time throughout the series. In the peanut reaction, the hand signal Sheldon shows Howard and Raj during Leonard's birthday celebration is the same gesture Leon teaches Matilda in the French film Lion, The Professional. The show gained some popularity in China thanks to a scene in The Tangerine Factor, where Sheldon complains to the owner of a Chinese restaurant for advertising orange chicken when the dish is actually made with tangerines. Raj tells Sheldon that his apartment building used to be a watch factory, which worries Sheldon because old watches were once painted with radium before it was discovered to be harmful. When Sheldon mentions Manushya Yajna in the bad fish paradigm, he's referring to Shakta philosophy, which emphasizes honoring human beings and fulfilling social responsibilities, such as offering hospitality to guests. Sheldon also tells Penny he can't keep secrets, which is why he wasn't hired for a government research project. This is a reference to a military collider that remained classified until 1993. When Leonard tells Penny that yogurt must contain acidophilus cultures, he's mistaken. True yogurt must contain Lactobacillus bulgaricus or Streptococcus thermophilus. Otherwise, it's just fermented milk. In the codpiece topology, Leslie gets angry with Leonard for not supporting her hypothesis during a debate with Sheldon about loop quantum gravity versus string theory. This highlights the kind of rivalries and debates that often occur in real scientific communities. In the Barbarian Sublimation, Dr. Gablehauser's chalkboard features the Mayan numeral system and calendar, with terms like kin, yunal, tun, Katun, and Baktan, alongside the date December 21, 2012. And if you look closely at Sheldon and Leonard's refrigerator, you'll spot a menu from the Bollywood Cafe, a real restaurant in Pasadena, California. Charlie Sheen's cameo in the Griffin equivalency sparked speculation that The Big Bang Theory and 2.5 Men, another Chuck Lorre production, took place in the same universe. However, as Sheen's series progressed, it was confirmed that this wasn't the case. The shots showing the living room wall in the Euclid alternative were filmed a day before the live audience taping. Removing the wall during the actual recording would have taken too much time. When Sheldon says he didn't get his driver's license at 16 because he was studying perturbative amplitudes, it's a nod to a physics paper titled Amplitudes and Ultraviolet Behavior of N equals 8 Supergravity by Professor Zvi Byrne of the University of California, published in 2011. The scene where Penny tells Sheldon to get out of her car in the Euclid alternative is a recreation of a moment from the 2005 film The Great New Wonderful, which also starred Jim Parsons. Actress Rikki Lindholm originally auditioned for the role of Penny. Since the part went to Kaylee Cuoco, Lindholm later appeared as Ramona Novitsky. Rikki Lindholm and Kate Micucci not only appeared on the show, but also wrote the song that Howard, Leonard, Sheldon, Penny, and Amy sing to Bernadette in the romance Resonance. Together, they form the comedy folk duo Garfunkel and Oates. In the Cooper-Nowitzki theorem, when Sheldon communicates with Leonard through the wall, he doesn't use international Morse code but rather American Railroad Morse, a playful nod to his love of trains. The Klingon dictionary used by Leonard, Sheldon, Howard, and Raj to play Klingon Boggle was written by Mark Okrand and published in 1992. When Howard chants, one of us, after Sheldon tells Penny she's part of the group in the Panty Pinata polarization, it's a direct reference to the 1932 film Freaks. And when Leonard hands Penny a note he calls Sheldon's kryptonite, Sheldon is wearing a Superman t-shirt, an intentional nod to the superhero's famous weakness. One of the models who opens the door to Howard and Raj at the end of the Panty Pinata polarization is Annalai Tipton, also known today as Leo Tipton. She later returned to the series as Vanessa Bennett in the Mystery Date Observation, the woman who solves puzzles to earn a date with Sheldon. Leonard once told Sheldon that friends shouldn't date each other's dates, after Leonard went out with Raj's date in the Grasshopper experiment. Yet Leonard breaks his own rule in the Lizard Spock expansion when he starts seeing Stephanie, who was originally Howard's date. When Howard calls Stephanie and asks her to say she's half Jewish on her mother's side, it's because Judaism is matrilineal. Later, however, he doesn't seem to care, as he marries Bernadette, who is Catholic. Their children, Hallie and Michael, therefore wouldn't be considered Jewish. The hospital room set where Leonard gets stitches in the white asparagus triangulation is the same set used in 2.5 Men, another Chuck Lorre production. Apparently, Howard once studied medicine but dropped out because he couldn't stand wounds or blood. Sarah Rue, who played Dr. Stephanie, also appeared in Roseanne and Blossom, both of which featured several actors from The Big Bang Theory. Interestingly, in the Roseanne episode where Rue appeared, Season 5, Johnny Galecki was already a regular cast member, though he didn't appear in that particular episode. The napkin Penny gives Sheldon in the bath item gift hypothesis was signed by Leonard Nimoy. In The Killer Robot Instability, one of the white bards in Sheldon and Leonard's apartment displays a formula for creating a black hole. The MacArthur Fellowship mentioned in the series is real. It's awarded by the MacArthur Foundation to U.S. citizens or residents who demonstrate exceptional merit and promise for continued creative work. Howard's long-standing fantasy of someday dating Penny finally ends in The Killer Robot Instability, when Penny confronts him directly and tells him she would never go out with him. Dr. George Smoot, who won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2006, was already a fan of the show. He wrote to the producers asking to be part of it, which led to his cameo in the final scene of the Terminator decoupling. In that same episode, while traveling by train, Leonard is seen reading Wrinkles in Time, a book written by Smoot himself. Smoot later returned in the Laureate accumulation. The building visible through Sheldon and Leonard's apartment window is Pasadena City Hall. In the Terminator decoupling, Raj talks to Summer Glau believing he's drinking alcohol, when in fact he isn't. The placebo effect kicks in, highlighting that his selective mutism is psychological rather than neurological, something that eventually fades with therapy or time, as shown at the end of Season 6. Producers initially asked Katie Sackhoff to appear as herself in the Terminator decoupling, but she declined. Summer Glau was then invited and accepted immediately. Sackhoff would later make her own appearance in the series. The work song Nanocluster is unique. It's the only episode filmed entirely on the sets of Penny's, Sheldon's, and Leonard's apartments. No other locations are shown, not even the building's stairwell. The action is limited to characters moving between apartments. The hair clips Penny makes appear only in the work song Nanocluster, the following episode, and later at Howard and Bernadette's wedding. Penny's business website, Penny Blossoms, really did exist, though it's no longer available today. The science joke Penny tells in the episode introducing the new neighbor had actually been published by Kevin L. Schwartz before it went viral. The dialogue between Sheldon and Leonard when they meet Alicia, the new neighbor, closely mirrors the dialogue from when they first met Penny. In the electric can opener fluctuation, Leonard, Howard, and Raj visit Sheldon at his mother's house. Howard wears a cowboy hat, and Raj makes a Toy Story reference, because Laurie Metcalf, who plays Sheldon's mom, voiced Andy's mother in Toy Story. After the Arctic expedition, Leonard gives Penny a snowflake preserved in polyvinyl acetate resin. This technique was first invented in 1940 by a General Electric researcher in New York, who adapted a method originally used to mold aluminum crystallization patterns. Before that, snowflakes could only be captured through microphotography. The snowflake reappears later in the toast derivation. For the electric can opener fluctuation, the actors were asked to grow beards for the scene where they returned to the building. However, the makeup department ultimately had them shave so they could apply fake ones. In the Jiminy conjecture, Sheldon mentions a formula linking the number of cricket chirps per minute to temperature. This relationship was actually determined in 1890 by physicist Amos Dolbear, not Émile Dolbear as Sheldon says. And Dolbear never specified a cricket species. That detail was added by later researchers. Sheldon's mother once said there was no alcohol in her house, leading fans to speculate it was because her husband drank heavily. But in young Sheldon, George is shown having a few beers without being portrayed as an alcoholic. The line instead reflects Mary's strong religious beliefs, even though she is seen drinking occasionally in both series. The comic books Sheldon and Howard bet on in the Jiminy conjecture are considered some of the most valuable titles from the Silver Age of comics. The tattoo sleeves worn by Howard and Raj in the Gothowitz deviation are made of nylon, the same type commonly used in film and television productions. The anime Ashikuru, Demon Samurai, watched by Leonard, Sheldon, and Penny in the Gothowitz deviation, is a nod to 2.5 Men, another Chuck Lorre production, where Charlie and Jake collaborate on the theme for that fictional anime in The Salmon Under My Sweater. The Battlestar Galactica Cylon toaster Sheldon uses was a real product released in 2008 in limited quantities. The kite fighting Leonard mentions in the Cornhusker Vortex is a real sport in several Asian countries. It's considered one of the most dangerous, as the kite strings are coated with crushed glass or metal and are razor thin, leading to injuries and fatalities. Regulations now restrict the materials used or limit the practice to designated areas. The coordinates Raj cites in the adhesive duct deficiency point to Vasquez Rocks Park, a famous filming location for multiple Star Trek episodes. Sheldon, Leonard, Howard, and Raj later visit the site in the Bakersfield expedition to take photos in costume. When Barry Kripke pumps helium into Sheldon's office to mess with his voice during an interview, you can also spot oxygen being sent through the hose. That's to make sure Sheldon doesn't suffer from low oxygen levels, safety first, even in pranks. The radio station Raj claims to have worked at is actually one of the most popular stations in India. In the Vengeance formulation, Kripke shows his work to Chancellor Siebert before Sheldon's prank. But here's the catch. Joshua Malina, who plays Siebert, doesn't appear until Season 4, Episode 15, even though the character is mentioned as early as Season 2. David Saltzberg, the show's real-life physics consultant, makes a cameo in the Gorilla Experiment, sitting in the university cafeteria. He's also referenced in the Intimacy Acceleration, when Leonard, Raj, Amy, and Emily go to an escape room. Only 2 episodes feature a main character without any dialogue. First, the maternal congruence, where Raj stays silent because Leonard's mother is visiting. Second, the Spock resonance, where Amy is seen from a distance on a date after breaking up with Sheldon. Beverly Hofstadter appears from Season 2, while Bernadette and Amy join in Season 3. But the 3 women don't share a scene together until Sheldon's birthday party. They don't actually converse until the line substitution solution, which also marks Beverly's first time in Penny's apartment. Episode 14 of Season 3, The Einstein Approximation, is a tribute to Albert Einstein, who was born on March 14, 1879. The Vanity card in the Large Hadron Collision references a plagiarism incident involving the show in Belarus. In the Excelsior acquisition, Sheldon plans to have Stan Lee sign his Batman comic to make it unique. Raj decides to do the same, but since Sheldon has to appear in court, Raj ends up with the signed comic, making his copy one of a kind. In the Precious Fragmentation, during the fight over the ring they find, Sheldon is wearing a Red Lantern t-shirt. In the Staircase implementation, you can spot something unusual on Sheldon's whiteboard. coded references to German rocket fuel from World War II fuel that was eventually abandoned because of how dangerous it was. Leonard mentions he's working on a government project involving rocket fuel. But here's the twist. That's really the kind of job a chemist would do, not a physicist. This detail explains why Leonard's demonstration for Howard and Raj went so wrong, ultimately causing the infamous elevator accident. Some fans believe the staircase implementation could almost serve as a replacement pilot, or even a reimagined version of the original unaired pilot that CBS rejected. Amy's mother was first played by Annie O'Donnell in The Desperation Emanation. Later, the role was recast with Kathy Bates, who portrayed her for the rest of the series. When Sheldon uses Lucky Baldwins as Leonard's cover story to hide his date with Raj's sister, that's not just a throwaway line. It's a real Pasadena cafe that's been around since 1996. The FBI agent's office where Raj, Leonard, and Sheldon are interviewed? It's actually the same set as Sheldon's office, redressed for the scene. One of the university office doors has the name and Shay on it, a nod to one of the show's set decorators. In the 21-second excitation, Amy smacks Penny with a pillow. That wasn't scripted, so Kaylee Cuoco's surprised reaction is completely genuine. In the agreement dissection, when Sheldon tosses the roommate agreement, the paper accidentally sticks to his head. Jim Parsons and Johnny Galecki couldn't hold back their laughter right after filming. In the love car displacement, marks the very first time all 7 main characters appear together in a single episode. In the thespian catalyst, Raj fantasizes about Bernadette and insists he isn't gay. This moment ties back to earlier jokes in the series. His parents had questioned his preferences. Leonard's mother once teased that Raj and Howard had a mock marriage, and Raj even drunkenly kissed Howard. The original title of the herb garden germination might be a subtle nod to April 20th, famously associated with herb culture. In the agreement dissection, Penny asks Sheldon if he's ever kissed a woman. He replies that aside from his mother, sister, grandmother, and a nun, no. But fans remember Beverly Hofstadter kissing Sheldon back in the maternal congruence. When asked about this, co-creator Bill Prady explained it didn't count since Beverly kissed Sheldon and the characters agreed never to mention it, especially to Leonard. The countdown code Sheldon uses to pressure Priya and Leonard into signing a new roommate agreement is the same one Spock uses, and the design resembles countdown scene in Star Trek: The Next Generation. The photos hanging in Howard's house are real childhood pictures of Simon Helberg. The sword displayed in Stuart's comic book store is an authentic Game of Thrones prop, valued at $10,000 at the time. Johnny Galecki refused to handle it, but later the sword can be seen hanging in Sheldon and Leonard's apartment. The model rocket Howard plays with in the Russian rocket reaction is a Saturn V, the same rocket that carried astronauts to space in the late 1960s. In The Good Guy Fluctuation, the comic drawing Leonard shows Alice was created by legendary artist Jim Lee specifically for that episode. Amy claims she doesn't like comic books in the Flaming Spittoon acquisition, but in real life, Mayim Bialik grew up reading comics and loves science fiction. And here's a fun relationship detail. Sheldon and Amy's milestones often came thanks to third parties. Sheldon asked Amy to be his girlfriend after dating Stuart, reunited with her after she dated Dave, and finally proposed after Ramona Nowitzki kissed him. In the recombination hypothesis, the show recreated a scene from the original pilot. Sheldon, Leonard, and Penny even wore similar outfits. This wasn't just any episode, it was the 100th episode of The Big Bang Theory. Bill Prady revealed that he asked permission from Paramount, J.J. Abrams, producer of the new Star Trek series, and Zachary Quinto to poke fun at Spock. That's why when Sheldon orders a Spock standee, it turns out to be Quinto's image instead of Leonard Nimoy's. The mirrors in the university bathroom were installed at an angle so they would only reflect the floor, avoiding any accidental reflections of cameras or the studio audience. In the Rothman disintegration, Sheldon's office whiteboard actually has musical notes written out, representing the sounds of the bells and the bird that annoy him. When Penny accidentally shaved too much of Sheldon's hair in the werewolf transformation, it was real. Production had to pause filming until Jim Parsons' hair grew back. For years, producers tried to get Leonard Nimoy to appear on the show. He finally did in the transporter malfunction, though only as a voiceover. He was on set with the cast, but likely avoided appearing in full Spock makeup since he had retired from acting. In the Hawking excitation, the White Bards feature Stephen Hawking's singularity theorems from the 1960s and 70s. Howard's belt buckle collection? It totals 94 pieces. Fun fact, the script for the Hawking excitation originally had Sheldon showing up in the university cafeteria dressed as Princess Leia in her metal bikini. Jim Parsons agreed, on the condition he'd get 6 months and a personal trainer. The producers decided instead to go with the French-made costume. The NASA character Dave Roger, who speaks to Howard in the Countdown reflection, was named after a programmer who once worked with Bill Prady. While Leonard and Raj were trying on tuxedos for Howard's wedding, they joked that the Soyuz spacecraft wasn't reliable. But here's the reality: 15 NASA astronauts have died in American-designed spacecraft, while only 4 astronauts have died in Soviet-designed ones. Sheldon once mentioned their building's address as 2311 Los Robles Avenue. Yet, the rooftop wedding scene for Bernadette and Howard was filmed at 215 South Madison Avenue, just minutes away from the characters' supposed residence. To avoid showing brand names on screen, the production team altered the packaging of snacks and drinks featured in the series. Howard's scenes aboard the International Space Station were filmed in a replica located in Canoga Park, California. The set was relatively small, so creative camera angles were used to make it look like multiple sections of the station. In the extract obliteration, Howard jokes about arguing with Stephen Hawking over whether Johnny Depp appeared in The Matrix. While Depp wasn't in the film, he was actually considered for the role of Neo before it went to Keanu Reeves. During Amy and Bernadette's heated exchange in the parking spot escalation, Penny's witty comeback wasn't in the script. It was improvised by Kaylee Cuoco. The spanking scene between Sheldon and Amy in the fish guts displacement was notoriously hard to film, since Jim Parsons and Mayim Bialik kept bursting into laughter. In the tenure turbulence, Sheldon, Leonard, and Raj compete for a tenured professor position at Caltech. The storyline never reveals who got the job, but given Sheldon's recognition, fans speculate he would have been the likely choice. The artwork in Raj's office is a real photograph of the Hourglass Nebula, taken in 1995 by the Hubble Space Telescope. And after years of trying, Chuck Lorre finally convinced Bob Newhart to appear in one of his shows. He joined The Big Bang Theory as the beloved Professor Proton. The season 6 finale is the only episode in the series where, alongside the end credits music, you hear a voiceover and it's Raj's. The writers decided to drop Raj's selective mutism in that season 6 finale because it was holding back his storylines, and they'd already mined every possible joke from it. Kunal Nair and Simon Helberg were thrilled to ditch those scenes where Raj whispered in Howard's ear. That's how we learned Raj's actually smooth with women when he wants to be. For the hesitation ramification, they cut a scene of Raj and Stuart chatting up a woman at the mall to fit the runtime. Chuck Lorre hoped to bring back Lexi Contursi, the actress from that scene, in another role, but it never happened. Bernadette faking her laugh at the restaurant with Howard, and Amy parodies Meg Ryan's famous fake orgasm scene from When Harry Met Sally, 1989. Carrie Fisher and James Earl Jones didn't actually know each other in real life until they filmed The Convention Conundrum. During Star Wars, Fisher was on set while Jones recorded Darth Vader's voice from a sound booth. They never crossed paths. James Earl Jones' bit where he rings Carrie Fisher's doorbell and bolts? That wasn't scripted, Jones improvised it on the spot. The dining table Leonard buys only appears in The Table Polarization. That futuristic car at the end of The Mommy Observation is one of the first prototypes of the electric sparrow from Electromechanica. In The Mommy Observation, Raj and Leonard joke that their murder mystery game rips off Terminator, which itself ripped off another production. That's a nod to Harlan Ellison suing the Terminator studio for plagiarism. James Cameron, the writer-director, denied it and was ready for court, but the studio said they'd cover costs only if he won. Cameron, just building his name, settled out of court. Today, he insists the script is all his and that Ellison was a serial litigator. The script Penny reads in The Indecision Amalgamation was written by Vince Gilligan, creator of The X-Files and Breaking Bad. Check the vanity card on the cover. It's a thank you from Chuck Lorre featuring Jesse Pinkman's signature catchphrase. The Altair and Vega story Raj mentions telling Emily is a 2,600-year-old Chinese legend about the weaver maid Jinu, a celestial fairy, and cowherd Nyolong. They're star-crossed lovers celebrated at the annual Qixi Festival, also known as Tanabata in Japan and Korea. The Star Wars-style effects on Professor Proton were crafted by ILM, the same team behind the original films. They gave Bob Newhart extra time on set to nail his performance while perfecting the visuals. When Sheldon adjunct teaches to switch his focus to dark matter, he buys cookies and asks students which scientist who shares a cookie name helped invent calculus. That's likely Gottfried Leibniz, who independently developed key ideas in integral and differential calculus alongside Newton. Balsan, a Hanover company, named their Leibniz biscuits after him. In the Vanity card for The Hookup Reverberation, Chuck Lorre joked it was his last, but he kept them coming. The voice of Dr. Oliver Lorvis' mom in The Misinterpretation Agitation belongs to Annie O'Donnell, who played Amy's mom in Season 4. Dr. Oliver Lorvis borrows traits from Raj, Howard, Sheldon, Leonard, and Stuart. That's why they all adore him and crash his place to geek out over his collection. Sheldon's I Love You to Amy before prom in The Prom Equivalency was filmed in one perfect take. The audience reaction is 100% real, no editing was needed. The clean room infiltration riffs on Breaking Bad's Fly episode, where Walt and Jesse obsess over a fly in the lab, even copying some camera angles. After Carol and Susie, Howard's mom, passed away, the gang placed her photo on Leonard's fridge as a heartfelt tribute. Pamela Adlon was considered to voice Howard's mom before killing off the character. Instead, she provided baby Hallie Wolowitz's cries, sneaking in a nod to Mrs. Wolowitz. When Leonard, Raj, Amy, and Emily tackle the escape room, Amy and Emily are dressed as Velma and Daphne from Scooby-Doo. During rehearsal breaks, the cast unwound with casual ping-pong matches. Howard's half-brother in The Fortification Implementation vanishes from the show after that. Howard even claims he has no siblings. Penny's reaction to Howard and Raj singing her song at Stuart's comic shop? Totally unscripted. Kaylee Cuoco couldn't stay in character and cracked up, unlike the others, so they kept her genuine laugh. The Leonard Nimoy documentary filming in The Spock Resonance is real, called For the Love of Spock. It features interviews with Mayim Bialik, Jim Parsons, and Bill Prady. The opening night excitation is the only episode where the title actually appears on screen. For Penny realizing Sheldon's gearing up for his first time with Amy, they shot multiple takes, including spitting wine and dropping the glass. The final cut? Penny smashing the glass in her hand. In The Sales Call Sublimation, Sheldon and Raj discover an asteroid but struggle with naming it, settling on Amy. In real life, there are asteroids named after the main actors of the series with numbers 8621 through 8627, plus one named Sheldon Cooper with number 246247. Leonard trying to bribe the restaurant staff? A direct nod to Chandler pulling the same stunt in Friends. When Bernadette's about to tell Howard she's pregnant, a rabbit pops up in her hot tub. Rabbits symbolize fertility across many cultures. Sheldon's birthday party skips his mom and grandma, likely because they were celebrating his twin sister Missy's birthday instead. The cabin where Penny, Leonard, Sheldon, and Amy go is the same one from Two Broke Girls. Johnny Galecki personally asked Judd Hirsch to play Leonard's dad, since Galecki modeled Leonard after Hirsch's character from the 1978 series Taxi. Early buzz suggested Emily, Raj's girlfriend, would join the main cast with opening credits, but it never happened. Even though Sheldon once told Amy he'd never let Amy sit in his spot, she sneaks onto the couch for a brief moment in The Hot Tub Contamination. Chuck Lorre's Vanity cards from The Veracity Elasticity through The Romance Recalibration riff on the US presidential election. Apartment props often go unnoticed, except when Sheldon freaks out over the bike blocking the elevator. That periodic table shower curtain? It's Sheldon's, spotted in Penny's bathroom when Sheldon and Amy move in. The imported beer Howard brings when Raj hunts for a new place is Hoegaarden, brewed in Belgium. The allowance evaporation is the show's shortest episode. In The Recollection Dissipation, Sheldon's blackout hunt for his lost notebook full of secrets nods to The Hangover's wild amnesia plot. Beyond Klingon, Sheldon's self-taught Mandarin, German, Spanish, Finnish, Persian, Arabic, and even Hindi. Since Raj never actually learned Hindi, he has to ask Sheldon to translate for him. A hilarious twist since Sheldon previously bragged about speaking Raj's language, referring to English. Melissa Rauch pulled off her own ventriloquism scenes in The Cognition Regeneration while chatting with Howard. The hotel room set when Amy heads to Princeton? It's the same as her old apartment before shacking up with Penny. Bernadette's, Amy's, and Leonard's glasses? Pure props, no lenses. After Carol and Susie's passing, Howard's mom, her voice returns one last time in The Bitcoin Entanglement via archived audio. The board game Sheldon brings Bernadette pre-baby Michael, the campaign for North Africa, 1978, is infamous as one of the longest, toughest games ever and a total collector's item. In The Gates Excitation, Penny gives Bill Gates a tour of her workplace while Sheldon geeks out. But Raj reveals they'd already met years ago, and after Sheldon ripped into him over Windows Vista, Gates punched him right in the nose. The role of Larry Fowler wasn't even meant for Teller. It was only after finishing the script that producers realized Amy's quiet, submissive father was the perfect fit for the illusionist, since Teller is famous for never speaking in his act with Penn Jillette. Courtney Hengeler, who played Sheldon's twin sister Missy, was actually pregnant in real life while filming Sheldon and Amy's wedding episode. The writers weren't sure if Amy would accept Sheldon's proposal. They debated it endlessly, but we got to see the couple tie the knot anyway. Mayim Bialik said she felt uneasy in her wedding dress for Amy and Sheldon's episode, possibly because it stirred memories of her own divorce. For the bow tie asymmetry, they couldn't use Mark Hamill's real pet due to union rules, so a trained dog stepped in. Hamill let fans name it. Sheldon's Meemaw skipped the wedding because the actress's age made travel tricky. Production played it safe. Beverly was absent too, despite their bond. No explanation given. Mark Hamill's daughter Chelsea appeared as a wedding guest, alongside Ann Wheaton, wife of Will Wheaton. To honor Stephen Hawking after his passing, they filmed a season 11 finale scene. Sheldon and Amy opening gifts, including one from Hawking with a card reading, "Sheldon, so happy you finally married Amy. It was just a matter of time. Ha. Love, Stephen." Leonard quips, "He must have sent it before he died." It closed with a cast photo tribute, but it got cut for time. The first person Amy, Penny, and Bernadette spoke to in their debut episodes? The guys they ended up marrying. Despite seeming mismatched, Howard/Bernadette and Sheldon/Amy sparked over chats about their moms. In The Conjugal Configuration, Raj Twitter spats with Neil deGrasse Tyson, who defends demoting Pluto. When Sheldon calls him out, Tyson blames the International Astronomical Union. The Batmobile Penny rents Leonard in The Procreation Calculation is a replica from the 2003 TV movie Return to the Batcave, The Misadventures of Adam and Bert. Though we never meet Howard's dad or see his mom in person, photos in Howard's house reveal what his parents looked like. The astronaut who nicknames Howard is Mike Massimino, playing himself. He flew to the ISS twice and sent the first tweet from space. Howard's Fortnite username? The same call sign he got in space. Howard's transient idiopathic arrhythmia should have grounded him. Spaceflight risks heart issues, plus astronauts eat peanuts, which he's allergic to. Leslie Winkle faded out because writers couldn't craft stories for her. Her last appearance was Sheldon's birthday party. Fans often debate who the worst character really is. Some point to Stuart for mooching off Howard and Bernadette while desperately craving the group's approval. Others blame Amy for changing Sheldon and stripping away his iconic quirks, even if it was for the better. Then there's Bernadette, who fans say turned mean and belittling toward Howard, becoming a condescending bully driven by money over pure science. Penny's last name? Never stated, but a fan spotted Teller on a package Sheldon hands her for making napkin rings, a nod to the US magician duo. In The VCR Illumination, After his theories debunked, Sheldon drops a sports metaphor. It's only halftime, plenty left to discover. Amy asks if it's his first. He says yes. But nope. His real first was striking out Penny for touching his food and sitting in his spot. The super asymmetry comment Leonard reads from Dr. Salzberg at UC? Straight from the show's science advisor. The producers and cast launched a $4 million scholarship program at the University of California for STEM students, covering full rides to train the next generation of scientists. Producers chased William Shatner for a cameo. Fans begged for it too. He said it'd depend on the script but signed on after learning Kaylee Cuoco would share the scene. Melissa Rauch's brother, Ben Rauch, popped up briefly when Penny pitches a new drug. The laureate accumulation marks Sheldon's final triple knock. That episode features 3 Nobel Prize winners: George Smoot, the 2006 physics laureate who also appeared in The Terminator Decoupling, Kip Thorne, who won the Nobel in Physics in 2017, and Francis Arnold, the 2018 winner in Chemistry. Howard's new Vespa phone number matches the Facebook page for Footprints on the Moon, the Raj/Howard duo. Howard and Bernadette's kids only appear in the finale. Their cries honor Carol and Susie, keeping her memory alive. Post Leonard Nimoy, Chuck Lorre dedicated a Vanity card to him, and did the same for Carol and Susie, though it aired only in the US version. The show nods to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Sarah Michelle Gellar's visible on the plane to Stockholm, next to Raj at Sheldon and Amy's ceremony. Unlike reality, Nobel winners don't speechify at the ceremony. The show added it for emotional punch with friends and fans. Amy and Sheldon's Nobel medal doesn't look like Alfred Nobel, but it sure resembles Chuck Lorre. The tiara Sheldon gifts Amy? She wears it at their wedding and the Nobel ceremony. Sheldon delivers the show's very first and last lines. In the 100th episode special, actors shared character wishes. Jim Parsons hoped Sheldon would win a Nobel someday. He did, right at the end. The 100th episode bash included cast, crew, CBS/Warner Brothers execs, and bare naked ladies, who performed the theme song. In episode 100, Penny rocks the exact same blouse from her pilot Meet Cute with Leonard and Sheldon, and again in the finale. The finale's final shot? Leonard tenderly touching Penny's belly, beaming for their baby. During the last table read for the finale, the cast couldn't hold back tears, marking the end of over a decade of on- and off-set bonding. The finale wasn't taped live. They screened the finished episode to capture audience reactions. This avoided overwhelming emotions from cast and crew after 12 years, speeding things up, then gave final bows to everyone. The pilot filmed on Valentine's Day, the finale on Kunal Nair and Johnny Galecki's birthdays. The pilot drew 9.5 million viewers, the finale, a whopping 18 million. Jim Parsons, Kaylee Cuoco, and Johnny Galecki bid emotional farewells to their characters in a video featurette for the final season coverage. To thwart set thefts, producers chipped every prop for tracking, then archived it all with the studio post-finale. Each lead actor got a 4A plaque, Leonard and Sheldon's apartment number for group dinners. They also took keepsakes. Kaylee snagged 2 robot paintings. Simon grabbed his pilot episode Nintendo controller belt buckle. Melissa took Bernadette's glasses. Cast and crew surprised live studio audiences with 3 flash mobs, choreographed by Kaylee's sister Brianna Cuoco. In 2012, 2014, and a final one in February 2019, thanking fans for 12 seasons. During the 2019 Nobel Physics announcement in Stockholm, Academy member Ulf Danielsson quoted the show's theme. Our whole universe was in a hot, dense state. Nearly 14 billion years ago expansion started. Wait. Secretary General Goran Hansson praised the series for bringing science to screens and living rooms worldwide, calling it a fantastic achievement. He added, I hope Sheldon and Amy aren't too disappointed today, naming the real winners. It's the longest-running U.S. multi-camera sitcom, 279 episodes over 12 seasons, topping Cheers, 275. They celebrated after episode 276. Among priciest shows, final season episodes cost $10 million each, the top-earning sitcom ever, pulling $1.83 billion in 2016 ad revenue alone. HBO Max paid $1 billion for US streaming rights, but Netflix's Warner bid sparked speculation. In the finale, after fixing the advanced human DNA, Leonard notes, 139 very pleasant hours, matching the show's total airtime with commercials, pure runtime, 102.5 hours from 22-minute episodes. Back in 2013, TV Guide ranked the show at number 52 on its list of the 60 best series of all time. The Big Bang Theory spawned Young Sheldon, which wrapped in 2024 after 141 episodes over 7 seasons, a prequel to Kid Sheldon. Season 2's finale flashes childhood versions of his friends, Leonard, Penny, Raj, Howard, Bernadette, and Amy. It birthed Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, about his big brother. Spin-off rumors were everywhere until April 2023, when HBO Max officially greenlit Stuart Fails to Save the Universe. After the first teasers dropped in December 2025, we finally got the plot. Kevin Sussman is back as Stuart Bloom, who accidentally breaks one of Sheldon and Leonard's gadgets, triggering a multiversal crisis only he can fix. Look for the premiere sometime in 2026. In 2015, LEGO Ideas dropped a 479-piece Big Bang Theory set recreating Leonard and Sheldon's living room, complete with minifigs of the main cast. Funko Pop capitalized too, releasing collectible character figures. Characters stick to assigned seats at dinners. Sheldon in his spot, Amy beside him, Bernadette next, Howard opposite her in a chair, Penny on the couch, Leonard next in a chair, Raj on the floor with a cushion. Finale twist? Howard on the floor, Raj on the couch. The show's awards haul is huge. It grabbed the TCA for Best Comedy Series in 2009 and dominated the People's Choice Awards as Favorite TV Comedy in 2010 and again from 2013 to 2014. On top of that, stars like Jim Parsons, Kaylee Cuoco, and the iconic Bob Newhart all took home individual trophies for their performances. Surprisingly, in 2019, the year of its grand finale, neither the show nor its cast received a single primetime Emmy nomination. It's a rare snub for a series that had been such a critical and fan favorite for over a decade. After the series wrapped in 2019, Warner Brothers added the original sets to their official studio tour. Fans first step into apartment 4A, then walk past the legendary broken elevator and stairs, and finish the experience at the Caltech cafeteria set, where so many iconic conversations took place. Jim Parsons walked away from the show due to a perfect storm of burnout and personal loss. Between seasons 11 and 12, while starring in The Boys in the Band, he had to say goodbye to his dog of 14 years. Shortly after, he suffered a broken foot on stage. These events triggered a deep reflection on his life and age. Knowing he'd be 46 by the end of season 12, the same age his father was when he passed away, Jim knew he needed a change. He broke the news to Chuck Lorre and Stephen Milaro, who realized right then that without Sheldon, the show couldn't go on. Parsons locked in young Sheldon producing contract before announcing his exit, helping seal the show's end. Had Jim Parsons chosen to stay, the show would have been renewed for 2 more seasons. That move would have made it the longest-running primetime comedy ever, officially overtaking the record held by classics like Frasier. First show with its own asterism, the International Star Registry renamed The Big Dipper The Big Bang Dipper. The Big Bang Theory even has its own Warner Brothers building in Burbank, California. The finale title, The Stockholm Syndrome, fits because the gang had it bad for Sheldon. Despite his rigid rules and zero empathy, they stuck around and loved him anyway. It ended with a special cast farewell, Galecki and Cuoco thanking fans for 12 seasons. Director Mark Sendrowski hinted post-finale, in a few years, fans might crave updates on the characters. If Chuck Lorre revives it, he'd jump in. There's still life to explore. What if we got a sequel? So much left hanging. Leonard and Penny's baby name. He likes one, she doesn't. Sheldon vowed all his kids would be Rajesh in a deal. We know their first is Leonard, but not the girls. Would Howard finish his PhD? Does Raj ever marry? And that's the end of our epic dive into over 400 Big Bang Theory facts. A show that hit rare heights of popularity, ranking with Friends and How I Met Your Mother as fan favorites. But what made it such a smash? When The Big Bang Theory premiered, no one foresaw its massive popularity. It hooked audiences with rare TV characters, geeky experts in science, tech, and comics, who flipped stereotypes. As the series built momentum, viewers got hooked on their niche knowledge. Simple situations became comedy gold through their analytical overthinking, turning everyday problems into puzzles, yet they found joy ditching reality. Shout out to sharp writing with personal arcs, plus a science advisor who nailed theoretical versus practical clashes, universal across fields like physics, biology, and beyond. Hilariously, everyone claims their discipline reigns supreme, each with valid bragging rights. As success snowballed, the show roped in real scientists, movie stars, and tech icons, supercharging its buzz. Stephen Hawking's comedic cameos, plus Nobel winners Kip Thorne, George Smoot, and Francis Arnold, reframed science. For many grade schoolers, physics, biology, or chemistry shifted from boring classroom drudgery to dream careers. It sparked a societal shift. Teens worldwide dove into STEM, boosting university enrollments in recent years, all because it made science fun and bingeable. Topping it off, the cast, producers, and crew launched a scholarship fund for STEM students, their biggest impact. We desperately need pros in these fields to tackle today's and tomorrow's challenges. Being inspired by a sitcom to pursue science? That's a game changer, drawing even more fans to a show that proved the world craves innovators who can reshape it. What did you think of these facts? Got any we missed? New trivia keeps popping up for this sitcom, and if more surface, they'll star in another video. Sure, early seasons had plot goofs, no clear direction yet, but it evolved beautifully with character growth. Drop your favorite episode in the comments, and if you're new, check the playlist below. No fact left behind. Thanks for joining this marathon of science, laughs, and friendship. Remember, no matter how chaotic the universe, there's always room for a good theory. Loved it as much as Sheldon loves his spot? Hit like, share your fave part, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. See you next time.